crap. I've been on mute this whole time. All right. I've been talking for the last couple minutes. I'm not sure why it defaulted to mute. I'll just edit that out. So, hey, good start. So, sorry. Update for the month. So far this month, we have our highest total of MRs for a month, and we still have a week to go. So 47 MRs to date, and we have a week to go. Nice work. And you can see the dashboards there, links to them. For work items, Chinyu updated his work items, so you can read his updates. And then there were a couple of issues we were looking to close early in this milestone. Camille commented on the issue that Nicola's working on. Did you have any questions on that, Nicola?
Well, I guess I can sync up with Camille afterwards, but I'm not sure if this covers everything. Or maybe we can sync on the issue itself. I guess that Camille did like everything.
Sorry, Nicola, I started looking at these DCI minutes, and it seemed like something that's gonna be super useful. I mean, kind of useful to kind of like make it better. Take a look at that. It's like the second one is like not yet fully finished. The first one is finished. I only have to do like rebase again and like pass to the maintainer review. Second one is like I would say 80 or 90% finished. I only have to move around like 2 or 3 tests and like get it green, basically, like for the second one. And technically, it's gonna kind of close this issue.
Yeah, based on what I saw in the MRs, yeah, everything should be covered. I'm not fully understand everything, but yeah, it looks like you solved the problem with default and free plan.
Okay. So you guys can sync up afterwards. And then the other one was document and formalize standard health check for GitLab. And that one was assigned to Camille.
Yes, so I finished that, and I'm gonna finally get this done. Sorry.
No problem. All right, and then just in general, usually look at the board. All right, we just covered that one. Camille, upstream Puma patches for scheduler fixes.
So this is on my plan. Probably not this week, but the next week to push that.
Okay. And then I think these two have been
I actually asked Fabio because like we enabled that on dev, and I asked actually Fabio for him to also look at that, whether like we see any difference or not. If we would not see any difference, we would basically enable that on staging and try to optimize them. But maybe like if I free Nicola from plans, maybe Nicola would help me like with this and testing these of the atomic processing. Because there are gonna be some aspect of the optimizing that implementation. So maybe we could like spend some of the free time on like working together on this.
Okay. And then the atomic processing and composite status.
It's together basically. So like we enabled the atomic processing and composite status on that. It's running, and basically now we need to take a look at the data to see in what circumstances it's like underperforming. And optimized atomic processing is basically like we anticipate that some aspects of like that implementation needs to be improved, And this is the second, like this prior issue for that, like to keep track of like what we're gonna be updating. When the rollout is basically like starting with dev, then like staging and so on and so on.
Okay. Alexi?
Could you please update the page because one of the issue was missing a milestone.
Yep.
It should appear now. Okay. So about this first ticket, it's finished. It's on Canary, so I'm not closing it yet until I will be able to verify it on production. Or at least we'll see that there are no issues. And second one,
oh, sorry. I just want to say, I don't know if it's any indication, but I uploaded GitLab HQ earlier, which is 700 megabyte, and it worked in the browser. And I remember it didn't work before. It always like timed out after 15 minutes or something.
I don't know. It is not on production according to labels. It's on Canary, but I don't know. So, and the second one is I'm working on it. I created the first merge request, which is in database review. The second one, which is the actual calculation change, is in progress, and we're discussing it with Camille. So that's it.
Okay. Chinuyu's update is in the doc. Matthias?
Yeah, the first story there I just pulled in today. It's pretty small because it's just enabling a cup that already exists. So I did that and I found a couple offenses, only 3 of them that I was able to fix because this one's pretty straightforward. So I just sent out an MR, and moved that to review straight away, I guess. Well, the second one is like debatable. That took more time to build as well. I'm like not sure if we want to have this because like it's like this case where when it happens, it's pretty bad. But there's just way too many false positives where like it is fine to do it because like the files that you read are fairly small. So we will probably have, so if we enabled a cup like that, yeah, it would probably get more in the way than it would help, I guess. So, so yeah, I guess we're just like, sorry, most of the discussion is in the MR right now. So we were just like, like thinking about what could be alternative ways, you know, maybe just documentation, right? Because we have the performance guidelines. I don't know how much people look at this, but could be another paragraph where we just, that's probably my favorite choice right now is to just like write up a paragraph about, hey, be careful with IO read and file read and read lines and here, and then even give a little snippet, you know, like here's how you could rewrite that. Just a heads up, and then making sure that, in like MR reviews, we actually look for these things. Which I don't know, like, I guess maybe in the engineering weekly, we can post a heads up to or something.
So Matthias, like in the past, I had some issue on completely disallowing any file reads. Like you would not be able to read any files, like because
it's not disallowing anything. You can just, it's a cut, right? You can just silence the offense. But yeah, like what I just said, like we probably don't want to have it. Like, and this is, you know, yeah, I guess like it's not even this specific issue necessarily, but because we had a few of those, and the other story is maybe a little less controversial, but I'm wondering in general, like, how is that a good strategy, you know, to have cups for performance related problems? Because more often than not, they are probably not problems. It's more like a heads up, you know, like this could be slow. So we always run the risk of just getting in, you know, in people's ways of productivity. That's the main thing I'm concerned about here. So yeah, that Camille is also why I said I think this is something we should decide as a team first. That's why I didn't want to put it out to review and have people like review like Ruby code before we even know we want to even do that.
Yeah, I mean, one of our goals is to be more proactive and call out these things, but if the signal to noise ratio is wrong, then probably should start with just the paragraph like you indicated. And then if we can always come back to this, implementing the COP if it makes sense, if we see enough of these patterns going forward. So yeah, I think it makes sense to revert to a paragraph instead.
Should I like work the issue to mention that, or should I create a new issue for that? Do you think, or what would be more useful?
Personally, I'd created a new issue because you worked on this issue, you spent some time, and you had a merge request, so it makes sense to keep this like in place.
We can always put this in the backlog and just put a note in there that we're going to reconsider this in the future because it's just too much noise right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
Yep. Thanks for the research on that. All right, and Nicola.
First one is magically resolved by Camille. So I will probably just reassign and check his MRs. The second one is almost done. I'm still struggling to make pipelines green, but I hope to make them really soon. It's in maintainer review, so I expect it to be approved.
We cannot really merge that yet before the MR that I work on Friday.
There is still notes.
So I think we also wait for Casio to give us the approval that he's gonna be able to do a group thing with that work.
Yeah, that's also connected with the next issue that I created. I will not be probably working on it. Maybe I should assign Casio there, or I will check with him.
Could you mark this issue project exports temporarily as blocked to indicate that we need to match another MR first?
This one.
Yes.
Is it just a blocked label?
Yeah.
Yes. We also have label on the MR, so it would be also useful on doing that on the MR as well.
Yeah.
Which one? First one or second?
The second one.
Looks like they're all related from there. Okay. As far as the missing the release post, it's something that we can add, and Josh and I were chatting about it, so we'll get it in there. Between Josh or I, we'll get that MR in and make sure it's on the release post. It's pretty straightforward, but yes, should have caught it. I missed it.
So I guess because I think we need to figure out a way to do it next time. Maybe our call the one that would happen right before the release. We could maybe add the action item to our call to look at all our issues and MRs, which would be good ones to indicate in the release post as kind of recurring thing for us to talk about that.
Yeah, we talked about adding a release post item labeled to issues or MRs too, and that's something I went back and looked. I didn't see any in there, so definitely something we can get better at. I like the idea of reviewing or just having a note in there. I will figure out a way to add that to the agenda template.
Yeah, I think the release post label is great, and that way we can if we should pick it up, then we can look at it. We can also, of course, scan through the MR list, but just make sure we don't miss anything, or also to maybe signify ones that are more important. That would be great to also have. Sorry for missing this.
So, Josh, like release post is for to the issues or is it to the MRs?
So we have the label. It can be on really either one, frankly. I would put it on the it usually goes on the issue for things that are not actually adding something to the release post. But we'll check both just to make sure.
Because, like, for example, in this case, changes that we did to the serialization, they were part of the ND-JSON. And this big is not yet closed, but like we introduced anyway, like big performance optimization, which was like part of the one MR. So now the question is like, would this release post be like to the MR, or should we kind of create additional issue to indicate this optimization that we shipped?
Yeah, I would. So in a case like that, I would just leave it on the MR. The other thing you could do is just create. I mean, if you, I think just leaving it on the MR is fine. The other thing you can do is actually create a release post item MR against the like unreleased release post branch, and that's probably the best way to do it to make sure it really doesn't get missed. But that's a little more work. I can show you how to do that on release post.
So these release post items, that's basically like it's kind of like a changelog, but a bit more condensed. But is it like bullet points, or like how would we so what would be included, I guess, in the release post if we had talked about any JSON or anything? Is it just like a paragraph, or and is this something we write, or is that done by the release team, or how does it?
Yeah, so it's usually done by the product managers typically. So that's who's responsible for contributing items. So sorry for not adding them.
No, it's all right.
That said, it is a changelog style, and so what happens is you create a little YAML block. If you, I can share my screen real fast. Or maybe Craig, if you want to go to the MR or something like that, you can see them.
Oh,
But
yeah,
there are two types of sections. So there's this section, which is basically, I would say there's three options really for like performance improvements. The first one is you can just label it with performance, and there's a link at the bottom of this block right here that will take you to the list of performance improvements.
So that's compiled from the changelog YAML that we maintain anyway.
Well, it's 93 open MR, 93 merged MRs is what the.
Should fix that then.
So yeah, so that's the list of MRs that were merged and added. Anything with the performance label. So that's one way to get it in, but that's probably not ideal, right? So that I would say that can be used for things that, you know, didn't really have that much of an impact. For the streaming exporter, if you go back to the release post there, right?
I'll let you drive. It'll probably be a little faster.
Oh, sure.
If you're ready.
All right. So if you go back, so that's this one. And then the next step would be to just add it to this list here, which is sort of relatively significant improvements, but not massive ones. And then the next option from there would be to actually add it to the list here, which is its own feature block. And so if it's a particularly important one, you know, for example, the streaming import, for example, should get its own item here. We can do that. And to give you some examples, I could show you a couple ones we had that were kind of performance related. I'm trying to think of, I just told about 7, look at what it was. I didn't actually have one until that 9. Here's basically a Puma one, right? So we're just basically saying to use Puma, it's 40% reduced. We also have a couple other ones around the blob search. I can go back up. Oh, it's not coming up for some reason. All right. Anyways, I've done other ones in here. We had a database one that actually had a little GIF that showed the database endpoints previously and then after the change, and like basically went from mostly red as far as missing a performance targets to all green. And so for things like that, we can definitely use a full-on performance block like this. And the way you do it is we have these little YAML blocks, and so likely for something like performance, unless it's truly like a major change, would be a secondary item, which is already kind of like, if you look at oh, come on. So there's 3 types of items that are typically here. We have the top items. Top item is the most important, which gets like the biggest space, which is this. We then have primary items, which then get side-by-side views. And then down here are now secondary items, which get sort of like just this, the content above the image. And so usually,
who kind of decides like what goes where? Is it like a voting process, or do we just like we have a small group of people who just pick what they think?
Yeah, so basically product manager will usually get a sense of, I think this is a primary, I think this is a secondary, I think this is a top. And then once you get closer to the end of the release post process, product marketing will then chime in and then say like, I think these are the top 3 features of this release, like impact-wise. And there's a discussion around that, but yeah. But anyways, then this is really what has to happen, just to contribute a little YAML file. And you just say what the name it is, what's available in, a link, and then a little blurb. And if you want, you can have an image attached as well. Images are not required for secondary items. And you can see all the fields here and what they do up in this comment.
Right.
So one would look like, yeah, of course. So one would, here's an example one right here. This one looks like didn't make 12.9, and so it's been pushed into 12.10. So, and there's a merge request template. I probably can't pick it up without actually a branch, but I can show you what it looks like. So if you pick this template for the merge request, you would then get a lot of the boilerplate. What to check, make sure images are down here, and then it goes through a whole review process as well. So that's the way you kind of contribute these.
All right. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for the walkthrough.
But anyways, you don't have to do that. Just so I would recommend applying release post item to either the issue or the MR, and then I can go through and add the YAML blocks. But if you would like to go through and add the YAML block, that's of course totally fine too.
Yeah, and at a minimum, we can add the performance label to the issues that went through, or sorry, merge requests that went through too, and they'll get picked up in this list. So between Josh and I, we'll get it squared away today to at least add those items to the performance improvements list. So we'll get the release post updated. Thanks for pointing that out, Camille. And I'll get it added to the template so the week before we start talking about it. And again, the release post item labels are available for us. So if you are working on anything you think is noteworthy or even have a question on, just add it and we can review it at the end of the milestone. All right, we are at time. So if there's anything else we need to cover, just throw it under the async items and we will follow up next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.